Okay, the purpose of this recording is to discuss assessment 1B and assessment 2B, and to help all students in addressing the assessment task. Okay. All right, now let's have a look at the assessments. This is assessment 1 part B. Okay, again, like assessment 1A, it contains 2 sections. The first one is actually about the your own posting, which is due on Monday, week 7. So next couple of weeks, you need to upload your own assessments. Okay, and the second section is actually your feedback to your friends, which is due on Sunday that week. Okay, but you can of course upload it sooner than that. Okay. Okay, now this one is an individual assessment. Okay, and this assessment actually has some overlapping elements because essentially it is about the same thing, except for this assessment, you work on the within 500 words plus minus 10%. Okay, as an individual assessment. Okay, now let's have a look at the tasks. There are 2 questions in here that we need to address. The first one is identify and discuss the explicit marketing environment factor force and its potential impact on the organization. Okay, this may include micro or macro factor. Okay, with in approximately 250 words. Okay? Just to let you know that any factor that you use is fine. Okay, at least you explain one factor. Okay, I would rather you having analyzing one factor comprehensively rather than attempting more factors, but it will be shallow analysis. Okay, 2 factors may still be fine to analyze the 2 factors comprehensively. Maybe may still be fine. Okay, but again, at least one factor. Okay. And provide comments on what you consider the best response to the change in the market environment. So what you think the organization must do to be successful in establishing a competitive advantage for the organization. Again, another 250 words, okay? In saying that, yes, we have 2 questions in here. You can also start with the introduction, and you can use the previous organization that you used for your assessment 1A, except if your organization was not specified in the previous assessment. I mentioned that in my feedback. Please do specify your organization, because if you don't specify it, you may find it harder for you to analyze this. Okay, right now the next thing I'd like to do is to discuss about how we can address this. Okay. Okay, this is the file that I just emailed Wadi. Remember, please go through the assessment brief for more details, assessment for details of the assessment. Okay, so you can structure your assessment this way. I suggest that you outline the introduction. Okay, you briefly introduce the organization, their products and services. That's it. Briefly talk about it. Okay, and then then you move on to environmental factors, environmental factor affecting the business. Okay? Again, at least one factor here. Okay, you can look at macro environmental forces or micro environment actors. Okay. There are 6 factors under within macro environmental forces. demographic, political, and so on and so forth. Or you can also refer to past model, political, economic, social, culture, and technological. Okay, and in terms of micro-environmental actors, it also includes 6 actors. The organization, the competitors, customers, public suppliers, and market intermediaries. Okay, so for micro-environmental actors, you also need to look at the how they affect the values that they create, communicate, deliver in the exchange process with the customers. Okay, so mainly your analysis revolves around the changes of the environment factor. And show how they affect the business, and in doing so, please substantiate your analysis with data, okay, or facts to support your arguments. Okay, and the next one is action based on impact. So you need to look at the impact thoroughly in here, because if you don't get the impact, it will be harder for you to analyze it. Okay, and of course you want to have the references that include in-text references and a reference list. Okay, right. So that's basically assessment 1 part B. The next one that I'd like to discuss is assessment 2. Just on this assessment, again, please go through your learning resources, e-text. The slides only give you hints, okay? So please detail it. So you can't get the complete information from these PowerPoint presentation slides, all right? I'm going to post it on the announcement board, both files, so you can have hopefully that helps you in addressing the assessments. Okay, and again, please go through the assessment. Please go through the assessment brief. Very simple, I guess, in terms of the expected learning outcome. The other things that we need to learn: to outline environmental analysis, to outline SWOT analysis, and to discuss consumer behavior. Okay. Right. First of all, background analysis. Okay. The assessment also requires us to briefly outline a background. Okay. So please introduce the organization. Okay, the company, their products or services. Okay, you may also hear talk about their major products or services. Okay, and very likely the organization that you analyze has a range of products. Okay, so you talk about it, right? And then you look at the specific product or service that you want to focus in these assessments. Okay, can you use the organization of your previous assessment? Yes, you need to look at it. You need to discuss that with your group members if you work in a group. Okay, and please also note that again, the company may have several products or services. You can select one of them. Okay, you can select one of them. You don't have to analyze all products or services. Okay, you can focus on specific product category if they work, if they offer a number of product categories in the industry. You can focus on one of the product category. Okay, so for instance, if you work on Apple, for instance, you can select iPhone or you can select MacBook. Okay, yeah, your group can decide. Yeah, let's work on MacBook, for instance. Or if you like Samsung, for instance, you can select their mobile device, for instance, Samsung Galaxy. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay. All right. Now, this slide actually shows the environmental forces that affect the business in a nutshell. Okay, so all environmental actors and major environmental forces basically shown in here in a nutshell. Okay, so we have the company in here, right? The company tries to convince the consumers, right, to get them on board, to get them to persuade the consumers okay, through the value creation, value communication, value delivery. Remember our assessment 1A, where we talk about what marketing is, okay. In doing so, the company will work with the marketing intermediaries, okay, and the marketing intermediaries in here, or the middleman, basically distributes our products, helps us promoting our products, all right? And they also work with with our competitors, so kind of in bed with the enemy, basically, okay? And in doing so, when we want to deliver the promise for the consumers, we actually work with the suppliers, okay? And our suppliers may also work with our competitors, right? So everyone in here basically affects the value that the company creates, communicates, deliver in the exchange process with the consumer, okay? And on top of that, we have what we call as the major environmental forces, right? These major environmental forces affect everybody in here, right? Who is everybody? Well, of course, these guys, these micro environmental actors, right? Anything that happens in the major environmental forces will affect the consumers, will affect our distributors, will affect our retailers, will affect ourselves, our competitors, and also suppliers, right? Okay, now let's move on. Okay, so there are 6 elements of micro-environmental actors, okay? Or let's say there are the 6 micro-environmental actors, okay? The company, suppliers, marketing intermediaries, competitors, public, and also customers, okay? Let's briefly have a look at them, okay? As we discussed before in marketing concepts, which is related to your assessment 1A. Marketing essentially is about creating, communicating, and delivering value in the exchange process with the customers. Okay, so they are the keywords that we want to look at in terms when it comes to marketing. Okay, so the keyword of marketing is actually not about social media, not about advertising, not about promotion, not about marketing mix. Okay, but the keyword is understanding the exchange process with the customers. Okay, and if you look at the recent definition that the American Marketing Association published, okay, they actually has changed or shifted the definition from organizational function into a set of activities, processes, and institutions. Okay, so what does it mean? Well, what it means is basically marketing is not about marketing department or organizational function like in the previous definition. Okay, marketing is actually activities that anybody in the company can contribute, and they should contribute. All right. So whatever role that you do in your organization, either finance, R&D, purchasing, accounting, sales, marketing, quality, and so on and so forth, you actually play certain role in creating, communicating, and delivering value for customers. All right. So in here, when you analyze the company, actually your task is actually to show how good they are in terms of creating this value for the customers. Okay. Right. And then suppliers. Okay. Company needs to deliver the promise for the customers. Therefore, they need to work with the suppliers, and the suppliers basically help them with the raw material, packaging material, or labor in the manufacturing context. Okay, to help the company meeting their promise for the customers. Okay, so that also requires the suppliers to commit to deliver whatever specs that the company wants them to deliver. Okay. And the next one is marketing intermediaries, which is basically about understanding the role of the marketing intermediaries to promote, to sell, and also distribute. These guys are the middlemen or part of the marketing channel that the organizations need. And this one here is the competitors. Basically, we need to look at the competitors as well, because we want to ensure that the value that we offer for the customers are superior value. Okay, the world out there is so competitive, therefore we need to make sure that the value that we create, communicate, and deliver is superior. Okay, because we want to win the competition. Okay. All right, so if the question is about, do we need to analyze the competitors? Yes, we do. Why is that? Because this is the reason. We want to ensure we offer superior value for the customers, okay? And I got a question last time from at the other school I teach, and they say, well, I don't have competitors in my business. Because my business is, relatively speaking, a new in the new product category. Well, look, unless you are a monopoly holder, okay, you'll have competitors. You will have competitors. Okay, arguably, iPad was the first brand in the tablet computer category. When they launched the product, they actually analyzed the competitors. Right? Who are the competitors at the time? Well, they look at what product that customers used before they launch it. Okay, so that's the same question that you should ask as well. Assuming your product category is new, okay, you are the category new category builder. Okay, then your question is, if your product is not available in the market, what product that your customers will purchase? Okay, they are your competitors, right? So if you go back to the iPad, the first generation of iPad, well, they are going to look at the netbook, they're going to look at laptop, they're going to look at desktop. Okay, now of course the tablet computer category has been established, okay, and the competitive landscape now should be different to the one when they just launched it in the market. Okay, so again, the key question is, it is very likely you will have competitors in your product category, regardless it is new or not, unless you are a monopoly holder. Okay, like sitting water, for instance. Okay, and arguably in drinking water in category, they have competitors, right? They have Pump, they have Mount Franklin. Okay, but yeah, we can safely say that they hold the monopoly in this category. Okay, right. This is a bit of tool to help us analyzing competitors analysis. You can split them into direct, indirect, product substitute. You have to do this. No, you don't. All right. The main point in your competitor analysis is basically understanding who they are. You need to analyze. You need to suggest two competitors, and you also need to look at their offering and compare whether your offering, your organization's offering, is superior than your competitors. Right. So they are the main one. Okay, so this is just a side dish, if you like. So those who use these templates basically look at start from the need that the customer the need of the customers that they try to fulfill. The closer the brand to fulfilling the customer's need to us, they are our direct competitors. Okay, so if we put iPad generation 1 in our analysis, then we are going to put a laptop, desktop, netbook as our direct competitors. Okay. Right, so this is again another template, and again, if you use this kind of templates, you can put it in the appendix. It is not considered as within the word limit. Okay, the word limit is actually about your is only counted for your main contents, right? So the word limit excludes title page, table of contents, reference list, appendix. Okay, and if you use this kind of templates, you can put it in the appendix. Okay. By the way, you're analyzing two competitors. Public is interesting. They are not our target market, but they are basically affecting the effectiveness of the organizations in value creation, value communication, and value delivery for the customers. Okay, Coke, for instance, has been battling in quote unquote public as well, because there's a strong voice from public that Coke has been spreading sugar and diabetes to the world, and they've been also they like it or not, it affects the value creation that they try to convey for the customers, and it may also affect the carbonated soft drink industry, which in declining trend. Okay. I'm not going to discuss that. Just skip that, and because the customers will be discussing the consumer behavior section. Okay. Now, the next one is about the macro environment. So if the previous one we talk about the micro environmental actors, this one here is about macro environment. Okay, so there are 6 factors in here: demographic, economic, natural, technological, political, and cultural. Okay, so they are ones that you want to look at. Now, I'm not going to discuss them more detail. Just briefly take a look at each of them, and after that we are going to look at a different model for to help you. Okay. Just briefly, one of the things that you may also want to look at is the changing age structure in Australia or in your home market if you are not based in Australia. Okay, you look at that. For instance, in Australia we have the aging population. Now you need to ask yourself whether aging population is related to your industry or not. If it is related to your industry, then yes, you analyze the impact to your industry. Okay. The other demographic highlight in Australia is basically better educated customer. We have that, and what does it mean? Well, if we have a better educated, more white collar, and more professional population, well, very likely we have a more demanding customers, right? If our customers are more demanding, that will affect the effectiveness of our ability to deliver value for the customers, that eventually it may affect the cost of running the business. Okay? And increasing diversity also requires our attention, and because we may need to think about adjusting our offering to the for the customers. Okay. In saying that, one of the examples I normally use in terms of addressing diversity is McDonald's, for instance. They adjust their own offering. In Sydney, for instance, Bankstown area, they have the halal food offering. Okay, in some other markets like Indonesia, for instance, they offer omelette and also fried chicken, like Kentucky Fried Chicken, because these 2 dishes are quite popular in that market, so they adjust it. Okay, we don't have it in Australia. We mainly we have burgers in Australia, but in that market, they also look at the diversity as well. Okay. Right. Next one is economic environment. Economic environment actually affects the consumer's spending power, the consumer's lifestyle, whether they can sustain their lifestyle or not. Well, the ability of the consumers to sustain their lifestyle depends on their spending power. If they can't spend, if normally consumers can go to the pub once a week, go to the cinema once a month, for instance, well, it will be affected. That kind of lifestyle will be affected with their income and spending power. Okay. Therefore, economic issues basically revolve around the consumer spending pattern and spending power. Okay. And natural environments, we talk about the growing shortage of raw materials and increased pollution, and the increased government intervention in natural resources, resource management, okay, which is basically affecting the ability of the company managing the resources. Okay, so that's natural environment. Okay, the next one is political and social environment, which is basically about the government regulations, the government itself, the government actors. Okay, they will affect the effectiveness of the organization delivering value for the customers. Okay. First, another tool, basically reflecting those 6 factors that we just discussed. Again, the macro environmental forces basically affecting all micro environmental actors. Again, you can look at a couple of 2-3 factors here, 2-3 factors here, and so on and so forth. Okay, and the purpose is actually to review all elements that may affect the industry consumption. Okay, or the industry consumption is actually about the revenue. Okay, or the cost of running the business, which is basically about affecting the profits. Okay, all right. Stay tuned. I will continue to the next session.